When you launch an OpenSciEd unit, things get moving fast. You're helping students dive into a brand new phenomenon and try to explain something that's pretty complex. And then suddenly, it's time to co-create something called an initial consensus model. And let's be real, it can feel like you're trying to capture a swirl of half-formed ideas from all directions, live, on the fly, while making sure every voice gets heard and nothing important gets missed. So what is this initial consensus model exactly? It happens early in the anchoring phenomenon routine, after students observe the phenomenon and try to explain it themselves individually. Then the class comes together to build a shared visual model, a way to capture what we think is going on and what we still wonder. But here's the thing, that first model isn't about getting it right, it's about surfacing as many ideas as possible, especially the half-formed, messy ones. That's the gold. We want to figure out what students agree on, but also what they don't. Because when students see that they don't yet agree on everything, or that no one fully understands the phenomenon yet, it signals something important, that there's real figuring out to do here. So how do you actually lead this discussion without getting lost? Here's what you can do before, during, and after this initial consensus model to make them go smoothly. Before you get started, first look at the key ideas callout box to help you know what to listen for, and take a look at the sample model images in the teacher guide. You can have those images right next to you as you go, but remember, it doesn't need to look just like the one in the teacher guide, and it usually won't. Once you know where you're headed, get the students ready. Start by having them compare individual models. Give the students a few minutes to share their individual models in partners or small groups. Students can explain their model to a peer and then look for what is similar and different between their models. This gives them a chance to practice and sets them up for the whole group discussion. This is built into the lesson and is worth the time. Once they have compared, gather students in the scientist circle so they can see and hear each other and contribute to the shared model. This physical setup sends a message. We're thinking this through together. It also helps students build on each other's thinking more naturally. Now you're ready to lead the discussion and capture those ideas. Teachers we have worked with have shared these tips. First, start with what we agree on. Begin building the shared model by asking, what was similar in your models? Or, what are we feeling more confident about? Be sure to ask if others agree before you add it to the model. If students say they aren't sure, then you can discuss it a bit more and then capture the idea and note it with a question mark. Next, move on to what we aren't sure about. Often students are in agreement about what is happening, and that's a great place to start. But once we start to try and explain why the phenomenon is happening, that's where we start to disagree. And remember, that's the goal. We want to surface and celebrate lots of possible explanations. Give students space to discuss those explanations, and as you record those ideas, pose questions such as, should we put a question mark by that? Or summarize the discussion by saying, I'm hearing two different ideas. Let's put them both up and put a question mark next to them. We should name and celebrate that we don't agree right now. That's not failure, that's fuel for the unit. If your model ends up messy, awesome. Question marks, crossouts, weird diagrams, it's a sign that kids are actually curious. It means that you've got something worth figuring out on your hands. Finally, use a timer. If you're worried about time, you are not alone. The truth is that creating an initial consensus model in a science circle takes time, especially if this is the first time you and the students are making one together. When you're getting close to the end of the time, glance at the key ideas box in your teacher edition and ask, are we hearing most of these ideas yet? If not, prompt the class to bring up missing ideas or flag them as open questions. You don't have to sort it all out right now. A question mark is a perfectly good placeholder. As you wrap up the conversation, take a moment to step back with your students. Call out what just happened. Look at what we agreed on, and look at everything else we still have to figure out. That's the power of this first model. It makes the learning journey visible. It shows your class that they already have ideas worth building on, and it sets up a shared purpose for the unit ahead. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be real. And the more you do it, the easier and more fun it becomes.